All right, hi everybody, welcome to class today. So today we're going to be doing hopefully 3 full projects, but they're all really easy projects that should be not a big deal for us to do together. So here's what we're going to do. First, we are going to go to Code Naturally, open up a new sketch, and make sure that you're in advanced mode. And then we're just going to start from there. So remember that anytime during this video, if you feel like you need to slow down or you want to hear something again, you can always let us know in the comments, in the little video chat, if you need help with anything, or you can pause this video and rewind it. And if you're watching afterwards when this is posted on our YouTube channel and you have questions, just leave them in the comments and we will get around to them. All right, so hopefully everyone has a new sketch open and ready to go. And for this first project, we are eventually going to get to our Etch-a-Sketch, but I wanted to start with just like a review of variables and conditionals. So we are going to start with a project where we're going to cover our screen with shapes. So basically what we're going to do is take a shape, which it can be a circle or a rectangle, and we're going to move it across the screen and get it to basically cover up our whole screen with shapes. So to start with that, we are going to put in the shape that we want, whether it's a rectangle or an ellipse. I think a rectangle looks a little bit better, so I'm going to start with that. And actually, let's give it an x and a y variable first. So in between function setup and function draw, we are going to start by making a variable for x. I'm just going to set it equal to 0, and a variable for y set equal to 0 as well. And I wanted to do that first because we are going to put our rectangle at a location of x comma y. That's because we want our x location and our y location to change. And I want it to be about the size of 1 square on the canvas, so about that big. You could totally choose to make this smaller or bigger. It would work either way. All right, so we have our rectangle in. All I've done so far is made a variable for x, set it equal to 0, made a variable for y and set it equal to 0 as well, and then made a rectangle at x comma y comma 50, 50. So take your time, get that in, and then we'll move on to the next step in just a minute. Just a reminder, we've talked about variables before. If you don't really remember what they are, that's totally fine. A variable is something that can change, like the length of your hair or the day of the week or something like that. Those are all variables. They're things that can change. So for our variables, we specifically want to be able to move the x value and the y value. And we'll talk later on about how we can use variables to control other things. We can use them when we're using key commands. We can use them to control timers. We can use them to do a score. We can use them for a lot of different elements. So for this project specifically, we're making two variables actually, above function draw, which is always where they go. And we want our variable x to equal 0 and a variable y to equal 0 as well. If you're having a hard time, it could be that you have no space between your var x and your var y. It could be that your equal sign is a plus sign on accident. It's really easy to just hit that shift sign and make it a plus instead. Or you have them inside of function setup or function draw. So just make sure that you've got that rectangle inside of the curly brackets of function draw at x comma y comma 50 comma 50. And that's the width and the height. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do is talk about how we want this to move. So for this rectangle specifically, what I'm going to have it do is I'm going to go all the way to the right side of our canvas, and then I want it to start back over at the left side, but a little bit lower so that it goes across the screen and eventually will fill in the whole screen with colors. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a statement that moves the x value of the of the shape. So basically what I could do for that is say x equals x plus some number, and whatever number you put there is the speed it's going to go at. So for example, if I did 1, it would move kind of like that. If I did 10, it would move like that. So it moves a little bit faster, and you can see that there's a bigger gap between the shapes that are being drawn. So basically, everything that happens in function draw is happening 60 times every second. So every second that passes by, 60 of those shapes would have been drawn. So it's happening pretty fast. So that's why if you look at the canvas, one rectangle is being drawn every 10 places, because it's reading that and it's saying, okay, wherever x is, move it 10 places. Wherever x is, move it 10 places. And that's happening 60 times every second. So if I were to do maybe 50 instead, you can see now it's moving 50 spots before a new one is drawn. If I did 100, you could see the same thing. And if I did, like, let's say 500, you would only end up seeing 2 on the screen. So I'm going to actually make this 5. And if you aren't totally caught up yet, that's totally fine. You can pause the video, you can rewind. We've only written about 3 or 4 lines so far, so you should be able to catch up if you are just watching live. So far all that we've done is made a variable for x, a variable for y, set them equal to 0, made a rectangle at x comma y with a height and width of 50, and then we put in this little magic line, x equals x plus 5, that allowed us to move our shape. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is make a conditional statement. And we've talked a little bit about conditional statements in these classes, but if you haven't been in a class before, or if you just forget, that's totally fine. We'll talk about them again. So a conditional statement just says, if something happens, then I want something else to happen. Like, if I drop my ice cream cone, I want to get a new one, or I will get a new one. Or if it's raining outside, then I will use my umbrella. Those are things that are true. So in this case, what I want to tell the computer is, okay, if you notice that something that I say is true, then I want you to do something else. In this case, what I'm going to do is say, if x, we're going to use that location of our variable x, if x is greater than whatever the far right side of your canvas is, I'm going to use 700 for mine. And pay attention to the way that your inequality is going. So it wants to basically, it's like an alligator mouth, and it wants to eat the bigger number. So you can read this as, if x is greater than 700, and that goes in parentheses. And then you go to the end and make curly brackets. And you say, if x is greater than 700, then what I want to happen is I want x to equal 0 again. So I basically want it to go back to the start wherever I started drawing it. So it goes to the end and it starts over again. And you can see that we're doing a cool loop here. So it's going, and then it comes right back. So what I wanted to happen, what I've talked to you guys about initially, is that I wanted it to go all the way to the end and then start over, but I wanted it to start over 50 units down from where it was before. I wanted to fill up the entire screen. So for that, I could say, all right, I made a variable for the y location as well. And if my y location is going to go down, it's going to get 50 units bigger than it was before. So what I'm going to say is x equals 0, and then right underneath it, I'm going to say y equals y plus 50. All right, so now it's going all the way to the end. It's getting to the end, and then it's starting over. And it's moving down. And you can try experimenting with different numbers here. You could try doing like 100 instead of 50. There's a lot of different ways that you can do projects like this. You can change the speed, so you can do, instead of x equals x plus 5, you could do x equals x plus 50, and it would go a lot faster. but it would also look different. So let's see what it would look like that way. So it goes much, much faster and it looks really different. So figure out a way that you like the way that it looks, and then we'll move on to the next step together. Remember that you can always pause the video if you need to, you can rewind it, and then after you rewind it, you can catch up if you need to. You can also ask questions in the group chat if you need help with anything. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is, all right, so the next thing we're gonna do is the color. So anytime that we do a fill command, it has to go before the shape, right? So we're gonna go here and I'm gonna say fill, and then in a set of parentheses, instead of using one color, which, you know, would look fine, but it would look the same every time. So instead of using one color, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna use the X and Y coordinates as a way to change my color. So I can use those variables and I can say, okay, I want my red value to be X divided by 4. I want my G value to be Y divided by 2. I want my B value to be X divided by, let's say 5. All right, so now you can see that it's changing colors depending on where it is. And if you're just tuning in, that's totally fine. We are doing this project, but we're gonna work on 2 other projects today too. So you can catch up with this one, you can rewind and rewatch it, or you can just wait for the next project. All right, so this is what the choice of colors that I put in looks like. You could also add in a no stroke command with a capital S, N-O, capital S-T-R-O-K-E, and that'll make it look a little bit more like a gradient going on versus a bunch of squares. You could also change it so like the stroke is a different color. So you could maybe make like stroke and then 255, and that'll make the outlines white instead of being black. You could try making the stroke dependent on the location as well, but in a different way. That might look kind of cool, so let's try that. So let's do X comma Y divided by, oh, let's do X divided by 2, and then Y divided by 4. So this way the stroke and the rectangles are changing color, which is pretty cool. All right, so that is one project that you can make that is called Covering Our Screen with Shapes. And this is a type of generative art. So I think I've talked to you guys about it before, but if not, generative art is just a way to get the computer to generate art for you. So in this case, we only wrote in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 10 lines of code, and we were able to create this really cool piece of art on our canvas. So anytime that you want to make something cool and unique, generative art is a really easy way to do that, because like I even said in this video, you could have changed this a million different ways to make a million different projects. So don't feel like there's just one way to do it. All right, so this is our first project. We are going to move on and do our second project for the day. This one is a really, really good one. If you are ever interested in making video games, this is a good place to start from. So we're gonna open a new sketch, and I'm gonna name it Etch a Sketch and put it in advanced. All right. And then I'm just going to set this up a little bit, just the ways that I just like to make the canvas a little bit smaller so it's easier to see, and there's like less clutter on the page. There we go, that's good. Okay, so let me just get to the right spot in my book. Ooh, the last project we're gonna do is a really good one too. So stick around for that. That'll be a lot of fun. And then if you guys have any requests for any type of project that you want to do, please, please, please let us know. I really want to do projects that you guys want to do. So if you want to go back to like the sketching that we were doing to start with, we could totally do that. If you feel like you're ready to get into game design or something like that, let me know. If you want to do more generative art projects like the one I just did, just let me know. Whatever it is that you guys want to do, or if you want like some kind of coding challenge, that would be awesome. We could do that together. So just let me know. So if you've never used an Etch-a-Sketch before, it's basically a way, it's like a rectangle, a red rectangle, and it has these two little knobs on the corner. Basically what you do is you turn the knobs to move it to the left, right, up, down, all that. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to control a little square with our arrow keys, and that's going to allow us to use our arrow keys to draw on the canvas. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller actually. Let's make it 450. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do, I'll move this down a little bit so you can see it. There we go. So the first thing we want to do for this, same exact thing that we did for our other project first, we're going to make a variable for x, setting it equal to 0. We're going to make a variable for y, also setting that equal to 0. And remember, if you're ever having problems and you want to submit a project, we have two options now. So you can go to the link in the bio, link in the description. So go there and you can submit your project, and then we added in a question at the end that says, I need help, or it says, I'm just trying to show you guys my cool project. So you can go there and get help, or you can always ask in the chat box. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Yeah, so make sure you're ready to go. You started out with a variable for x that equals 0 and a variable for y that also equals 0. And we really want you guys to share your projects with us. So if you finished up the last one and you liked it, share it with us. I like to see the cool, unique ways that you guys create these projects. Okay. So this one is actually starting really similarly to the last project that we did, which is good. It's good to practice the same thing over and over. So for this one, we have our variable at x, we have our variable at y, set those both equal to 0. Then we're going to go into our function draw and make a rectangle at x comma y. That is, I'm going to start by making mine 5 by 5. I think that's going to be, maybe I'll make it 10 by 10. Yeah, that's better. So you can choose. Do you want it to be bigger? Do you want it to be smaller? Totally up to you. So the next thing that we're going to do is talk about key commands. And so these can be a little bit tricky at first, but that's why I wanted to start with them now, because if we do them in a really easy project like this one, it'll be much easier when you try to use them later on. So we're going to start with just one key command. We're going to start with moving our rectangle to the right. So we are going to say if, and then we're going to make a set of parentheses. The next thing we're going to write is 3 words that are all pushed into one, so no spaces in between. So if key, capital I, is, capital D, down. So remember, that's all one word with a capital I and a capital D. The next thing we're going to do is make a set of parentheses, and we're going to move over to our settings and turn on our key picker. So you just go to the little settings, it looks like a little wheel, and turn on the key picker. So it's right here. All right, so Now that I have my key picker, I can go over to it, click on it, and now when I press any key, it will tell me what the computer thinks of that key as. So for example, if I click on K, it thinks 75. So I want to tell it if key is down in parentheses 75, if I want it to do something when I press K. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know and I can go over it again. It's kind of like, end of the day, the computer speaks a different language than us, right? And we're just learning how to translate it. So it's like translating from English to Spanish. They have a different word for 1, 2, 3, 4, as we do. So for this project, you can either use the WASD keys. Those are like really common ones to use to move things around. Or you can use the arrow keys. I think that the arrow keys make a little bit more sense, but it's up to you. So I said that the first thing we wanted to do was move our square to the right. So I'm going to click on the right arrow key and the number that pops up is 39. So inside of my parentheses, I'm going to put 39. Then I'm going to move all the way to the end and make an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket. All right. So the next thing that I want to say is, okay, if the key is down, if the right arrow key is down, what do I want to happen on my canvas? So I'm going to just put this back up. So I want it to move to the right. So it's not the Y value that's changing. If the Y value was changing, it would be moving up and down. But it is the X value that's changing. And you can see as we go to the right, the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm going to say, if my key is down, then I want X to equal X plus whatever you want the speed to be. I'm going to just make a comment above this that says move to the right. All right, so now I have if, and then a set of parentheses, and I wrote key, capital I is, capital D down, no spaces. Then you want to make another set of parentheses. Inside of the parentheses, you're going to put the key picker key that you chose. If you want to do the arrow keys, you can just follow along with me. I chose 39, that's the right arrow key. And I said, all right, inside of these curly brackets, if that happens, then what I want to happen is I want X to equal X plus 5. So click on the canvas to make sure it's working. Click that right arrow key and it is working. If you try to move it back or up or down, you'll notice that it's not working yet because we haven't done those key codes yet. So we are going to do 4 total keys. So one way that you could do it is you could just copy and paste. I'm just going to write these all out so you guys get a chance to practice with me. So I'm going to say if, and then a set of parentheses, key, capital I is, capital D down. Then I'm going to make another set of parentheses and give the key code. This time I'm going to have it move to the left. So I'm going to go to my key picker, click on my left arrow, and 37 comes up. All right. So I now have if in parentheses, key is down, parentheses, 37. I'm going to make some curly brackets, and I'm going to say, if that happens, I want it to move to the left. So I want X to equal X minus 5, because as you go to the left, the numbers are getting smaller and smaller. So now if I click on my canvas, I can move to the right and to the left. And I'm going to just take a little pause here. Oops. Make sure that you have some comments on your code. Okay, just helping out in the comments or the chat. I never know what to call that. I guess it's a chat. All right, so now we have our variable for x, our variable for y, both of them equal to 0. We have a rectangle at x and y with a size of 10 by 10. We have a key command that moves it to the right and a key command that moves it to the left. So now we need to move it up and down. So, like I said before, what you can do is copy and paste these if you want, or you can just rewrite them. Sorry. Okay, quickly, I'm going to just take a little pause from this and I'm going to show you guys how to share your project again. Super easy. Don't worry about it if you haven't done it yet. Okay, so here's what you want to do. Let me get the right website up for you guys. Okay, so if you go to the link that's in the bio or in the description of this video, it's going to look like this, or the one that you've all just shared it in the chat as well, so you can go there. So it's going to look like this. You can press start. You're going to put in your name. So I can put in my name, Mackenzie. Press OK, and then tell us about, if you are part of this class, so you're part of a current class, what school you go to, and then what project are you submitting. So for this one, it's a beginner class challenge. And here is how you generate this correct URL to share your project. You're going to go to Code Naturally, you're going to exit your project, and find it on the screen. You're going to click on the 3 little dots. Oops. Hold on, let me zoom out. You're going to click on the 3 little dots, and it's going to give you the option to share it. That's what you want to do. So you're going to click Share. You're going to generate a link, and then you're going to copy this URL. So again, you're going to find your project, click on the 3 little dots, press the Share button, and then copy this URL right here. This is the one you want. You'll go back to this, paste in that code, and then you can press OK and it'll send it to us. If you don't share it like that, then we can't access it. So we just need to make sure that you guys are sharing your projects the right way. Hopefully it's easy enough for you to see it. Also, feel free, you can email us or you can go to our website. That's probably the easiest way. If you are trying to submit your project and it's just not working, you can go to codenaturally.com and you can go to the link, I think it's called Ask Questions or Get in Contact with Us. So click on that, and then you'll want to go to, there's like a little text box there. You can just tell us if you're having a hard time and we can help you out with it. Super easy for us. Or your parents all have my email address so they can email me and ask for help. I'm more than happy to help you guys out with any questions that you have. While I'm looking over this right now, I'm going to see if anybody shared projects. While I'm looking at this, just keep in mind that I want to know what you guys want to make. I want to know if I want to know what you guys want to make. I want to make projects that you guys are really excited about. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that we haven't done yet that you think would be super fun, or if you want to do another project again, or if you want me to give you a coding challenge to work on at home, just let me know. Okay. So we are going to go to hold on one second. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, so let's move back onto this project. Thank you guys for being patient. So far what we've done is we've gotten our square to move to the left and to the right. So now what we want to do is get it to move up and down. So I'm going to write a little comment that says move up. I'm going to say if parentheses key capital I is capital D down. And then we want to make another set of parentheses inside of there. I'm going to go over to my key picker, which is closed. Here we go. And I want it to move up, so I'm going to click the up arrow, and it's number 38. All right. Then in the curly brackets, I'm going to say y equals y, because we're dealing with going up and down, so that's the y-axis. And as you go up, the numbers get smaller. So I'm going to say y minus 5. And for this one, you can't really test it. I mean, we can kind of see in the little tiny corner. You can see like 2 little squares. That means it's actually working, and it'll make more sense once we can have it move down and up. So we're going to add one more key command that says move down. We're going to say if key capital I is capital D down, another set of parentheses. I'm going to go over to my key picker, click my down arrow, and say, all right, it's 40. So I'm going to type 40 in there. And then inside of those curly brackets, I'm going to say y equals y plus 5, because as you go down, the numbers are getting bigger. So now what you should have on your canvas is a square that you can control, that you can move up, down, left, right, any way that you want. All right, so I'm going to open up a new tab. I'm going to see if I can help out Naomi really quick. And let's see what's going on here. Okay, so this is for Naomi. I'm just helping her out. So we are going to let's just type in Naomi, put it in advanced, and I'm going to paste in her code she just sent me. And let's see if that'll work. Okay. All right, this looks really good so far. Okay, so here is what's going on. So we have these curly brackets right here that we don't actually need. So let's get rid of this curly bracket up here and get rid of this curly bracket right here. We don't need those. And then it looks good. So it's doing everything it should. It's saying if x is greater than 700, then, oh, that's what's going on. So it's got to be x equals x plus 1. So that's why it might not be working on yours. So here's what I fixed. I did, oh, that's what it is. You were right, because it was there. Okay, cool. So all that I did is got rid of some curly brackets that were up here that didn't need to be there. So Naomi, this looks good. If you fix those curly brackets and you're still having a problem, I'm not sure why you are, because everything looks good to me. So I'm going to just share this with you again. All right. right, so Naomi, if you can hear me, just copy and paste the 2 lines that I put in, or you can just follow along with the with what I did on the screen. Looks really good though, it's working like it should, and it just keeps going forever, which is awesome. All right, so now we can go, let's just go back to our Etch-a-Sketch for a minute. So you can see that we have this moving all the way around. So let's talk about ways that we can change it. Oh, okay. So I think that a problem that a few of you are having in the comments is that you are using try.codenaturally.com, and that is it's just not going to work as well as the real app. But let's get you guys new accounts. So if you're using try.codenaturally.com, you can request a new account, and I'm going to send you guys the URL to do that. All right. All right, so hopefully that works. So let's talk about ways we can change this. So let's put in a fill. I'm just gonna put in a black fill. Let's try that out. So it looks good, it's fine. You could also try adding in a fill similar to the way that we did our last project, where it's like x divided by 2, y divided by 3. Let's do x divided by 2 again. And that's going to look a little bit cooler. Another thing that you can do is you can say, okay, I don't like the outlines on it, and you can do no capital S stroke with parentheses, and that will allow you to have it look like this. The only thing with this one is eventually you would be able to fill up your whole screen. So let's try making these like 100 by 100 instead. So what's happening now, you'll see as I move it around, it's eventually going to fill up the whole screen, right? It will be slightly different colors, but you will be able to like cover up the whole screen, and then it just might not be as fun, but you can totally feel free to do it like this. I think that any way that you do it would be cool and fun, and you can use this to like draw pictures, and then if you ever like get to the point where like, all right, I want to erase this screen, all you have to do is press clear canvas and then press the run button, and then you can do it all over again. So I'm gonna just keep mine at 1010, and that's it for the Etch-a-Sketch project. So that's it for Etch-a-Sketch. Let's move on to another one. This one is one of my favorites. So we are going to make a little paint app. So I'm going to save this project, start up a new one, and you could do this one in beginner or advanced, I believe, but we're going to do it in advanced. So this is going to be a paint app. I'm going to put it into advanced mode. All right, so this is a pretty cool project. So basically what we're going to do is make a few lines of code, and it's going to make it so that we can draw on our canvas, which is really fun. So all we're going to do is go into function draw, make a lot of spaces, and we are going to start on this new project. So get ready to go. And we are going to say if and then you're going to make a set of parentheses. This is a conditional statement. So if mouse, capital I, is capital P pressed, P-R-E-S-S-E-D, so if, and then in parentheses, mouse, capital I, is capital P pressed, and then the curly brackets, then what we want to happen is we want an ellipse at mouse, capital X, mouse, capital Y, with a height and width of, let's say, 30. So what this is saying is let's go back one step. So it's using 3 built-in functions that the computer already understands. So shapes are functions. Mouse X and mouse Y are functions that are built in. There's all kinds of things that are built into the computer that it already understands, and that's how we talk to it. So in this case, we're using if mouse is pressed, which checks if you press your mouse. So if you click your mouse, so it won't ever work unless you're pressing your mouse. It's the same idea as key is down. It's basically checking a key that's not a key, it's your mouse. And it'll work if you're just using like a laptop with a touchpad, it'll work the same way. So the next one we're going to talk about is mouse X. That's your mouse's X location. Mouse Y is your mouse's Y location. So now, whenever I press my mouse, a circle is going to appear on the canvas. So this is a really cool one. So another thing that you could do is you could put your code down here, and that would just make it so that an ellipse shows up wherever your mouse is. So that's 2 different ways to fill up the screen with shapes in cool, unique ways. I'm going to keep it with the mouse is pressed because I want this to be kind of like a paint app. So ways that you can fix that is you can put in a fill command above it, and then all of a sudden this becomes a tool that you could draw a face with, you could write your name with. It becomes a paint application, right? So this is my poor attempt at writing my name. There we go. All right, so same way that we did before, you could change this fill command to be really cool. You could change it so that it is one color all the time, or you can change it based on like the mouse's X and Y location. In this case, it's going to be a little bit, what was I gonna say? Don't know where I was going with that. But you just have to write, instead of writing X, you have to write mouse capital X. And if you did this with a lowercase x, it wouldn't work. If you did it with a lowercase y, it wouldn't work. You could add in my favorite line, which is no stroke with a capital S, and that will get rid of the outlines on the outside of your shapes. But you will see that in this area down below here, the way I have the colors picked out right now, it's barely showing up a color. So it's really working well in these areas, but then as I go over, it gets to be really faint. And that's because I just used the big numbers. So as soon as you get past 255, there's no color, because if mouse Y is a number that's bigger than 255, it's going to be white. So all three of those becoming white will be what happens down here. If I were to change it to like mouse Y divided by 2, something like that, then I would get a bigger area where I'm actually making color and not having it be white. All right, so this is a cool way to make a paint app. It's not necessarily going to be one where you can pick and choose colors and color with those different colors. We can make a version of that. It's pretty easy to do that. We could actually do a pretty easy one right now. So we have time for one more project. So we're going to use the same kind of ideas that we did here for one more project. So let's go and make a new one. This is good. You guys are getting a lot of practice today. So I'm going to name this one Quadrant Paint App, putting it in advanced and pressing go. And basically the idea for this one is that we're going to split our canvas into 4 sections, and each one of those sections is going to have a different color. So it's not necessarily the type where you can just pick a color and then draw with it. That one's a little bit more complicated. So for this one, we're just going to make those 4 sections, and we're going to make it able to draw with different colors in different regions. Okay, so I'm just going to change my canvas so that it's 400 units by 400 units. You do not have to do that by any means. I just think it's a little bit easier. I'm also going to add some lines in here. Do not feel like you have to do this. So I'm just going to do stroke weight, and I'm going to make it 10. Then I'm going to do a line that starts at 0, 200. Is that what I want? Yeah. And then I'm going to have it end at 400, 200. All right. So I'm going to just split this in 4. All right, so I just made 2 lines. I made one that went from 0, 200 all the way over to 400, 200. So that's the one that goes from left to right. And then I had one at 200, 0, which is the top, to 200, 400, which is the bottom. And now what I am going to do is put in some code that makes it so that each time I draw in different quadrants, it'll be a different color. So to do that, I'm going to make 3 variables, one for R, one for G, and one for B. So I'm going to say var space R equals 0, var space G equals 0, and var B equals 0. So when we're talking about color, we put 3 numbers into the parentheses after fill, right? So when we do that, it's basically fill, and then in parentheses, we put the amount of R, the amount of G, and the amount of B, so the amount of red, the amount of green, and the amount of blue that we want to go into that color. So for example, if we did fill parentheses 255, which is the biggest it goes to, comma 0, which is the smallest, comma 0, that would be 255 R, 0 G, and 0 B. So that would be red. Let's say that I change that to be 255 red, 0 green, and 255 blue. That would be purple. So that's just how our color system works that we are using today. So the next thing that I'm going to do is basically the exact same thing we just did in that project. I'm going to say if parentheses mouse capital I is capital P pressed. Make sure you put 2 S's in there. Then I'm going to make my curly brackets, and inside of that I'm going to create an ellipse at mouse capital X comma mouse capital Y comma, let's make it 20 big. 20 is the size. Okay, so now it's working everywhere. I'm going to get rid of I'm going to set the stroke weight back to normal. Okay, so now we can see that, all right, it's working the same way that our last project did at the very beginning before we had even really started. So what I need to do now is try to make it so that the colors are changing. So we are going to go down, making some extra space. Let me zoom in a little bit on this so it's easier for you guys to see. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's make a comment that says this is for the top left square. And I'm going to say, if, in parentheses, mouse X is less than, wherever my line is right here, which I put mine at 200, then I'm going to say the curly brackets, and we're going to Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if there's something in here that'll help me explain this to you. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to say if mouse X, let's just do it this way. If mouse X is less than 200, and then I'm going to put two and signs, and mouse Y is less than 200 as well. So let's go over that really quick. So if my mouse's X coordinate is less than 200, so if it's up to this line, and we put two and signs, mouse Y is less than 200, so if it's less than 200 here, less than 200 here, then I want something to happen. In this case, I'm going to make red equal 255, G equals 0, and B equal 0. Feel free to change these numbers, make them anything you want. And the last thing that we need to do that we're missing here is to go above where we made our ellipse and write fill and then R, comma, G, comma, B. So if we did this right, why aren't you working? If mouse X is less than 200, why isn't this working? This happens sometimes when you're doing a project. I probably have something silly wrong that I just didn't notice. Oh, you know what? I think this is done in a little bit more complicated way than I wanted. Let's try it still. So I'm going to just copy this and write top right square. And in this one, I'm going to say if mouse X is greater than 200 and if mouse Y is greater than 200. Because I think that this is all that's wrong. Yeah, I think we have to use else's for this. So this one's going to be a little bit more complicated. We'll do this one next week. How about that? So let's find another project for us to do. Let me know if you guys have any requests in the comments of things that we could do. We went through this a lot faster than I thought we would, which is awesome. But it just means that I'm kind of looking for projects to fill the time. If you guys have any requests, let me know. If you are having a hard time with anything, I can help you out with it. Let's see, we can just practice our shapes. Let's do that. So let's just practice doing some sketching in advanced. So this will be fun. I'm just gonna make a sketch. I really encourage you guys to just make sketches sometimes and just draw stuff, just for fun. I think that it's a really good way to practice your shapes, practice your typing skills, all of that. All right, so I want to know if you guys have any requests for what I should draw. And you don't have to think of this part as like a code along. You can just draw whatever you want, and I'll just kind of draw whatever you guys want me to draw. So I'm going to start with, I'm not going to add any animation to this one. Maybe I'll just add in, Arnav said to do an ice cream cone, which I think is a good challenge. So I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll do like an ice cream sundae. So I'm going to make a background. Let's make it like a blue color. And then I'll make a little like countertop. So I'm going to do a fill color that's like gray. That's going to be a really light gray, but that's okay. I'm going to do a rectangle that goes from 0, 300 and goes 500 units across and 50 units tall. And it's going to have an outline, and I'm not going to like that, so I'm going to put in no stroke. All right, so now I have like a little countertop. Maybe I'll put like a menu board in the background. Oh no, I'll put like an ice cream sign. Let's do that. So I'm going to do a fill that's like a brown color. Maybe I'll make the sign like pink. Let's do it pink. Why not? Oops. All right, so I'm going to do a rectangle. Where do I want it? Let's do 50, 25, and let's make it just 400 wide and 100 tall. That might be too tall for what I'm looking for. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to put some text in here. So I'm going to fill it in with a darker pink color for now. We'll see if I want to change that. If you guys haven't used text yet, all you have to do is write T-E-X-T, text, and then in the quotation marks, you write whatever you want it to say. So I'm going to just say Mackenzie's Ice Cream Shop, and I'm going to tell it where I want it to go. So I'm going to just say like 50, 50. It really depends on how big you make your font and all of what font you're using for where you need to center it basically, but I'm going to just start with that. To change your font, you just go above where you did text, and in quotation marks you'll put the name of the font you want, and then you can make a font capital S size. Oh, it's text font. Okay. And it's text size. There we go. I always do that. Okay, so really quick what I just did. I put in a text font with a capital F, and then in quotation marks I put the name of the text I wanted to put. You can use any web-based font, so if you just Google web-based fonts, something will come up. I used Impact, you can try using that. And then I just did text size 30, which I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger if I can. 40 is going to be way too big, actually. Try 35. Still a little bit too big. 33. That'll work. Okay, so then I'm going to move it down and a little bit to the right. So instead of 50, I'm going to try 60, but I think that's going to be too far. Pretty close. Try 58. All right, and then I'm going to move it down. And this is really how you should be starting your coding projects. You just want to kind of get a base, get it looking the way you want, and then you can add in all the bells and whistles later, or you can choose to like focus on detail by detail. That's the way that I like to do it. So if I'm doing the font, I don't like to just leave it. Some people do and then they fix it later on. I like to fix everything so it all looks the way I want it to. All right, so we have our text in there. The next thing that I'm gonna do is do I wanna do ice cream cones? I think I'm gonna do a bowl. That'll be good because then I can show you guys how to make a bowl. So I'm gonna do an ellipse and I'm going to make it centered like here. And I'm gonna make it a little bit wider than it is tall. That's too small. Okay. Actually, yeah, that's good. I'm going to add in a fill to this, so I'm going to make it in let's just make a black bowl. Oh, maybe I should make it white. No, that's fine. Okay, so if you want to make a bowl, this is a really easy way to do it, or anytime that you want to make like a half circle, this is how you would do it. You want to make your ellipse, and then you can do a fill that's the same color as your background. Same color as your background, and you want to make a rectangle that's going to cut it in half, basically. So you choose where like the top left corner should go, and if you guys haven't used this resource before, wherever your mouse is will be in the lower right hand corner. So this right here tells you your mouse's X and Y value, so it can be really, really useful. So we're gonna make it 50 wide and let's just try 20 tall, and you just wanna kind of play around with it until it's the right size. So now you can see it's just making a little dent in there, right? So I actually wanna make this like 250, right? And instead of 20 tall, let's try making it 40 tall. And you just wanna move around until you get it the way you like it. So Arnav asked, how can I use the text command? So that's a really good question. All you need to say is all right, so text, and then in parentheses, you put quotation marks, whatever you want to write, quotation marks, comma, X, comma, Y. All right, so I've just got like a little bowl on there that I cut in half with the rectangle. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make little circles of ice cream in there. So if I were to do the code for the ice cream after this, they would go on top of the bowl. But I actually wanna make them look like they're going inside of the bowl. So I'm going to put them, I'll just put them here. Oh no. Yeah, I'm just gonna do it like this. That'll be fine. So I'm gonna do ellipse, and then I am going to do, I'll just make them overlap a little bit. That'll be fine. So 215, comma 270. Let's try making them like 30 by 30 and see how that looks. All right, so I'm gonna put in a different fill, and I have to find like an ice creamy color. So maybe like, this color's kind of like mint chip, which is my favorite kind of ice cream. So I'll try that one out. Yeah, I actually kind of like the way that looks. So I'm gonna just use a bunch of ellipses that are the same size, so you can copy and paste these. That's an easy way to do it. Or you can just rewrite them over and over again. I'm a big fan of the copying and pasting, but it's up to you. And the easy thing about this is that you'll leave the y value the same, so it actually does benefit you to just copy and paste it. So I'm going to just do that to show you guys how easy that is. All right, and then you just want to put different fills in there, and then we'll just have to move them over. Is there blue ice cream in the world? I'm sure there is. Maybe I'll do like a lavender ice cream. I don't know, maybe there's a lot of cool different ice cream flavors that I haven't tried yet. Okay, so I just want to change the X value, making it, I made the last one, what, 25 units bigger? I think, yeah. Okay, that one looks oh, it is the exact same color. Let's choose a more purpley color like this. There you go. And maybe I'll put like 3 more on top, and that'll be my ice cream sundae. All right, so I'm just gonna leave it at this. I think that it looks okay. But what I want you guys to do is take this as a challenge. So make an ice cream shop or make some other cool sketch, and you can share it with us. And then please, please, please let us know what you guys want to do next week. I love getting student ideas for projects that we go through, because I know that that's something that you guys will be excited about. If you don't feel like you really want to do a specific project, that's fine also. Just let us know. Okay. Well, that's about it for today. So thank you guys for joining in, and we will see you next week. Have a good weekend.